today is another edition, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, it's another one of my craft and chat where I am just going through this pile of scraps and just making some ephemera. I have tons and tons of ephemera that I need to get made. I need to go through all of my scraps, and so that's all I'm doing today, is just chatting with you guys while I work. And so I am just I'm not really paying too much attention. I am just making some different pieces of ephemera. I'm just trying to see what all I can get done in 30-ish minutes. As close to 30 minutes as I can get. So I am just taking my scraps, and depending on what size some of these, you know, are really large pieces of scraps that I could probably do something else with. But the thing is, when will I? Or the next question is, will I do something with it? And so the answer is no, I probably won't, because I don't know. So I need to, I have several journals in the works right now that need ephemera. So I figured I can clean out my stash and get some ephemera made all at one time. And I am not going to embellish any of this today, because, let me grab, hang on, I'm just trying to grab, I think I have some aluminum foil down here. I'm going to try and cut a piece of aluminum foil and see if that will sharpen this thing up some, because it is so dull. I don't know why. It is just like, it's not wanting to cut anything lately. And I can't even get the aluminum foil in. See, guys. So, I figured I would take this opportunity even to answer some questions that some of you guys have had about me. As most of you know, I have 9 children. And my babies are my life. See that one spot that's on the cut. Okay, so we'll just work with it. We'll see how it goes. My children are my world, and my grandchildren. And the funny thing about me is this. Most people are like, oh, so you always wanted a big family? No. I am the one that didn't want any children. None. And I've always said God has got a huge sense of humor, especially where I am concerned. Well, let me explain my first reason for saying that. I need to cut that down. I didn't pay attention to that, but that's okay. When it come time for me to get my first car, I was actually 15 when I got my first car. And my mom and dad were like, well, what kind of car do you want? You know, what are you wanting? I was like, I don't care, you know. I said, I want a Toyota, and as long as it's Toyota and it's an automatic and has air, then I'm good. And so, well, the Lord gave me what I wanted. He gave me a 1972 Toyota Corolla. And, you know, it was a cute little car, and it done what it needed to do. But you would have thought that I would learn by then to be a little more specific in my prayers. But I wasn't. And so my mom and dad, we had a Mustang. This was in 88, I think it was. We had a Mustang. I'm an only child, so they could get by with having the Mustang. And well, I have a Mustang now, and I have 9 kids, so I don't know. I was still at home. I was still a teenager. But we had went to a revival up in Georgia. And on the way back from the revival, we got in a really bad wreck. And our Mustang was only, I don't know, it might have been 2 years old. It wasn't very old. And it totaled our Mustang. And so Mom and Dad were like, okay, we've got to get another car. Well, at that time, they had the 1988 Thunderbirds were just, oh, I loved them. They were just, I don't know, they were just so beautiful to me. And so I was like, I want a Thunderbird, you know. Well, dummy, didn't think to remember to pray specifically as to what I wanted. I just said I wanted a Thunderbird. Well, guess what we got? We got a Thunderbird. A 1978 Thunderbird. And guys, I don't know if any of y'all have ever seen those. They're boats, like boats. And that's what we had when I turned 15. And so that's what I had to drive, you know, whenever I was with my learners. I was driving that boat. And so it was just crazy. And so you would have thought that, I don't know. That's why I say God's got a sense of humor, especially where I am concerned. And so, like I said, I didn't want any children. I was actually told that I couldn't have children. I had a lot of health issues. And so before my ex-husband and I got married, I had went to the doctor. And it's still in my hospital, in my medical records. But I couldn't have children. And so I was like, okay, I'm cool with that. You know, I don't want kids. Because I was not, you know, a lot of teenage girls, they'll be like, oh, a baby, can I hold it? And not me. I'd be like, yeah, cute baby, keep it over there. I'm good. So, when my ex-husband and I got married, I told him straight up. I said, look, I said, if you're wanting kids, I said, I am not the wife for you. I said, because I don't want kids. I think that actually made it worse. Goodness gracious. And he was like, okay, that's fine. And so we got married. And we had probably been married maybe a month, maybe. And I got real sick. And he ended up having to take me to the emergency room. And the emergency room doctor, he's like, you know, I really think you're pregnant. Is there any possibility you're pregnant? And I was like, no. And he was like, you're married and there's no problem. I was like, well, yeah, but no. And so they done the first test showed negative. And he's like, he said, I think you're pregnant. He said, I'm going to do a blood test because I really think you're pregnant. And he said, you're just not far enough along for, you know, the regular test to show. And I was like, okay, whatever, you know. I said, but I'm not pregnant. So they done the blood test. And at that time, it was, you know, not as rapid as things are now. And so we went on home. And we were supposed to call back up there to the hospital at like 11 o'clock that night to get the results. And we called. And guess what? I was pregnant. And I can remember crying and crying and crying and crying. I was so upset because I didn't want a baby. You know, I'd heard all the horror stories about, oh my God, it's the closest thing to death. And, you know, it's just like dying, and it's like menstrual cramps. It's like 9 months of menstrual cramps all and at one time. And I'm like, I'm going to die. You know, I was like, I'm not doing this. And so that was the thing. And I promise you guys, I cried every single night that I was pregnant with my first child. Every single night. I did not want that child. And I didn't, believe in abortion or anything. And so I knew that, I didn't want her. I'm straight up being honest. I did not want that child. And, and a lot of it was because I'd heard all the horror stories, and I was terrified, to say the least. And so, when I had her, I didn't even realize I was in labor. I still actually have the little card that my sister-in-law and mother-in-law were using to write down my contractions, because I didn't even know I was having contractions. My sister-in-law at the time sat there with her hands on my stomach, and she'd be like, "Okay, Mom, she's having a contraction." I'm like, okay. Because I didn't think I was having contractions. They weren't anything like what I thought they were supposed to be. I don't know. They just weren't painful. How about that? And so, it showed that they were like 2.5 minutes apart, and they were lasting like 45 to 50 seconds, and all this kind of stuff. And at the time, we owned an auto repair shop, and my mother-in-law, she was like, "Okay, you need to go on to the doctor, to the hospital." And she said, "It's getting time for that baby to get here." And I was like, "I'm not going to the hospital." I said, "I've been here at the shop all day." I said, "I'm tired." I said, "I'm going home. I'm getting a shower. I'm washing my hair, and I'm going to bed. Now, what y'all do, that's on you." And so it was like they had an intervention. And I'll never forget, it was my dad's first day on a new job. And my mother-in-law had called and told him. And so they all of my family shows up at the shop. And my dad had called in and said, "Hey, I'm not going to be able to make it today. My first grandchild's going to be born today." And I'm like, "Oh my God, this is so embarrassing, Dad, when you have to go in tomorrow and, tell them it was false alarm." Because I just knew I was going to be one of those that they rushed to the hospital every single time they thought I had a pain or, whatever. And so they had their little intervention demanding that I go to the hospital. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. And so at that time, my in-laws lived in town. And so my ex-husband, he was like, "Well, I need to get a shower." And so we went to his mom and dad's house, because it was kind of on the way to the hospital. And he got in the shower, and my mom called, and she was crying, and this was in 91. And I'm on the phone with her, and I'm like, "Mom, does it sound like I'm hurting? Does it sound like I'm dying? I'm fine." I said, "I'm not even in labor." And, she was all upset because her only baby was in labor and, whatever. And I'm like, "Mom, I'm fine. I'm not in labor. Everything is good. I'm cool." And so I went back there to my ex-husband was in the shower, and I went back there to tell him that Mom had called, and I did have a little pain that kind of hurt. And I said, "Oh," I said, "I felt that one." That dude got out of the shower. I don't even think he washed the soap off. I don't remember. I don't think he did. And he was like, "That's it. We're going now." And so he's like flying to the hospital. I'm like, slow down. I'm not in labor. This is ridiculous." And so we pulled up at the hospital, and he pulled up at the front door. So ridiculous, in my opinion, at that time. And he runs in and he says, "My wife's in labor. She's about to have the baby." And I'm like, oh my God, this is so embarrassing, because I'm not in labor. And the nurse, it was her first night on triage by herself, because at that time they didn't have a big, there wasn't a lot of people. And she come out with the wheelchair, and she said, "Okay, let's take you on up to the triage." And she said, "You got to get in the wheelchair." And I said, "I'm not getting in a wheelchair." She said, "Well, it's hospital regulations. You have to be in a wheelchair to go." I said, "Okay, I'll go home. I don't care." And she was like, no. And I said, "I'm not getting in a wheelchair." And so she finally agreed to walk behind me while I walked. up to triage. And so I got up there to triage. And then I was mad because I had to put that stupid little gown on. So I'm like giving my ex-husband all these evil glares. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. And this is so embarrassing. I'm not even in labor. And, you know, y'all have made me come. And I don't know. I was just showing my behind. And I was mad, to say the least. Because I thought it was a waste of my time. It was a waste of everybody else's time. And, you know, my dad, I was so worried that he was going to be embarrassed when he went back to work and had to let them know that, no, it was false alarm. She really wasn't in labor. You know, no baby yet. And so there was that. And so they hooked me up to the monitors. And I can remember watching the monitor and my contractions was just like going through the roof. And I'm like, you know, what is that? And she said, oh, that's your contractions. You're in labor. And I said, no, I'm not. I said, because I'm not feeling them. And she said, well, let me just check and see how far along you are. I said, okay. And so she checked. And whenever she did, my water broke. And this was a black lady. She was a sweetheart. I've seen her many times after that. And I promise you guys, this lady went ashen white. And I said, does that mean I'm in labor? And she was like, she said, you're dilated to 10 and the head is crowning. And I'm like, what? And she just started screaming, doctor. I went flying out of the room. And I can remember they came in, and I can remember cords flying because they just unplugged everything and just threw it on top of me and went flying down the hallway. And so a nurse come in the room, and she was like, okay, sweetie, you need to push. She said, we're at that time. And I was like, I'm not pushing. I said, I'm tired. I said, I have been at our shop all day. I'm not pushing. And my ex-husband looked at her. He was like, is there anything you can do? And she said, oh, no. She said, don't worry about it, honey. She said, nature will take its course. And about that time, my whole body just sat up straight. And I think I might have pushed 3 times, if that. Needless to say, I was only at the hospital like 15 minutes before my oldest daughter was born. And I remember looking down in her eyes. She was a preemie, and she was like 5 pounds, and she was just skin over bones basically, but she had these huge eyes. And I can remember looking down into her eyes in the delivery room, guys. And I was like, oh my God. I said, I want another one. And my doctor, he was Dr. O'Brien, he was finishing up. He was like, can we at least get done with this one first? And so that's where it all started. So I should have known that God has a major sense of humor where I am concerned. But, you know, I don't know. But that's how I got started having so many kids, and I loved it, and it was nothing at all like everybody had told me it was going to be. I actually enjoyed being pregnant, and during that time I actually felt better when I was pregnant. I may have to pause, you guys. Okay, I'm back. They were just doing their little yelping. And sometimes when they get started like that, then it's like they're in a contest and it just doesn't stop. So yeah, anyway, that's how I started having babies. And I felt better pregnant, and I love my babies. I absolutely love my babies. I love being the mommy. I was never one that was upset, you know, when my kids would wake me up in the middle of the night to eat. my thing is oftentimes I'd get up and just play with them, and you know, so, but it was when I realized that they actually grew up and get married and leave home, I'm like, okay, I'm done. But another part of God's sense of humor, where I am concerned, we had the 5 girls, and I had 5 girls under the age of 7. My mom had breast cancer. I was pregnant with number 5, and my mom had breast cancer. And number 5 was actually due in September, when my mom had to have her mastectomy. And I remember, and you know, and I'm an only child, so I'm the one that had to take care of my mom. You know, my dad helped, but you know, he didn't know what to do. So I prayed, and I'm like, Lord, you know, don't let anything be wrong with my baby, but you know, don't let me have her until my mom is okay, so that, you know, I can continue to take care of my mom. And so, because it was my 5th one, you know, my doctors, they were like, look, you know, at like 40 weeks, the placenta starts breaking down, and, you know, but we'll let you hang in there as long as you're okay, and as long as the baby's okay. But, you know, as soon as we find out that, you know, if there's something going on with the baby, that, you know, we're not going to wait. I was like, okay, that's fine. And so I think Mom finished like treatments like the end of October. And do y'all know that my baby was not born until November the 4th? Which the doctors were shocked. Number one, they were shocked that I was pregnant that long and didn't like complain. But, you know, my mom, it was my mom's health. And so my ex-husband actually went and got fixed while I was pregnant with her, because I was done. I'm like, look, I'm done. You know, 5 girls under the age of 7, dealing with my mom, you know, with breast cancer. That was it. I couldn't do no more. And so everything was wonderful until the baby girl was about 3, and baby fever hit with a vengeance. And so we had checked into adoption, and it was way too much. And we actually would have done foster care and foster to adopt, but at that time, and I think it may be different now, but at that time you could only have a total of like 5 kids, period, whether they were your own or adopted, to be, you know, a foster parent, which I thought was stupid, because we proved that we could provide for them. We had a huge house, you know, but because of that, we were not able to go through the foster care system. And so we checked into the adoptions, and we had a couple of private adoptions that were, we thought were very promising. One was a set of, what was it? One was, it was a set of twins, and that were like a year, and then there was a two-year-old, and the 2-year-old had like some mental problems, which I didn't care. And it was the mom, and that was giving them up. And what had happened was they were over here, they were illegal immigrants from Mexico, and the dad had got killed in a some sort of an accident. So she was here illegally with the kids, and at that point, you know, she was suffering, and she just wanted to give the kids up so that she could go back home to Mexico and be with her family. And I understood what she was saying, you know, but I offered, I said, look, I said, we have a mother-in-law suite. I said, you can come up. She was in Tampa. I said, you can come up here and live with me and your children. I said, I will work to get you a green card. I will, get your children an education. Whatever I need to do for you to be able to stay with your children. As bad as I wanted the kids, I wanted her to stay with her family. And she was like, no, I just want to, go back home. And I said, okay. So, and I understood. I respected her decision. And so I found an attorney here locally that agreed to do our adoption stuff pro bono. And so the weekend before, well, it was like the Wednesday before the weekend that we were supposed to go down to get the kids and do all the paperwork, she let me know that she sold the kids. She had sold, because we were not paying anything. She was just giving them to us when we were adopting them. But she had sold the kids, and I mean, I was just devastated. And I was like, oh, I don't know if I can handle this. It's just so hard. And so at the time, we had a friend in Tampa that was a doctor. Him and his wife were real good friends of ours. And he was like, well, I have a lot of people coming in my practice all the time. He said, I'll keep my eyes open. And so he called, or his wife called one day. And you know what? They might have both been on the phone. And he said, I had a lady come in today. He said she's like 7 months. And he dealt with a lot of the Hispanic population down there that didn't have a lot of health care or anything like that. And he dealt with a lot of poverty-stricken people. And he said, I had a lady come in today. He said she is 7 months pregnant. He said, I don't know if it's a boy or a girl. He said, I don't know the health or condition of the baby. He said, this was the first time she's been to the doctor since she's been pregnant. He said, there is nothing absolutely at all known about this. He said, but she wants to give the baby up. And he said, she, said, could she get a little bit of money to get her through the rest of her pregnancy? And he said, before I'd done anything, he said, I just want to see if you guys are, interested. I said, absolutely. I said, I don't care. I absolutely want it. And he said, okay. He said, well, I'll give her some money tomorrow. She's coming back tomorrow. And we'll give her some money to get her through the rest of the pregnancy. And then we'll just go from there. I said, okay, that's wonderful. So he gave her, I think it was like $1,000 he gave her, because she was right there at the last, and she needed to pay her rent. I don't even remember everything. It's been so long ago now. And she was supposed to come in the following week for an appointment, and we were going to meet her, and, I think we were going to have an ultrasound done to maybe, I don't know. I don't really remember a lot about it. And she called before her appointment. She had an abortion. Yep. 7 months pregnant. And she had an abortion. And I told my husband, my ex-husband, I said, I can't do this anymore. I said, it wasn't my child, but I can't handle the loss. And I had always joked when my girls were growing up. People would ask, are you done? I'm like, nope, I'm going to have 5 boys to make up for them 5 girls. And so there's that. So anyway, long story short, we checked into a lot of different things. And my ex-husband ended up having a vasectomy reversal. Dr. Padron in Tampa. So if anybody wants to know if it works or you need it, get in touch with me. I got phone numbers, because let me tell you, it worked. So he had the reversal, and like I said, God's got a sense of humor, because the next 4 kids that I had were all boys. And I'm like, oh my God. And so then I was really worried that, okay, Lord, you took me serious about this whole 5 boys to go with them 5 girls, and I cannot handle another boy because boys are totally different. And so that was it. That's why we stopped when we did. But God's got a sense of humor where I am concerned. I think he, yeah, maybe because, I don't know. He really does have a sense of humor with where I'm concerned. Why is this not even cutting this? Guys, how many of you have days like this where it is just not going right? It doesn't seem, but I don't care. It'll be all right. We'll make it all work, won't we? So yeah, that's been some of the questions, you know, just trying to answer some of your guys' questions about me. I'm just me. I've never been the crafty one. When my girls got married, I would cook. That's what they wanted me to do, was cook everything. I would bake the cakes and all that. But my ex-husband is the one that done, believe it or not, he done all of the decorations. You know, I gotta give credit where credit is due. That's one thing. He's good. He is very good at that kind of stuff. Me, yeah, not so much. Let's make a deep pocket envelope with this one. So I was not even allowed to cut the leaves off of the flowers, guys. That's how uncreative or ungifted, I don't know what you call it. Like, they didn't trust me to do anything like that. So that's why it's funny now when people are like, oh, I could never do what you do. And, you know, talking about my journals and my digital design. Yeah, you can. Trust me. Because if I can do it, anybody can do it. Because my girls will be the first to tell you, and they'll laugh. They'll be like, Mom, no. But I do enjoy it, and I do have a totally different style and way of doing things, and you guys have watched my videos, or I hope you have. You see that I don't know, I don't know all the different things. I guess maybe like somebody that's done graphic design or something, they know how many, because I hear people talking about how many things you should put on a page, you know, to draw attention, and I'm like, okay, that's too much like math. And I don't like math, so that's just too much like math to me, and I'm not doing it. So I just do what I think looks good and what I enjoy. And as long as I think it looks good and I enjoy it, that's what matters. So that's why I tell you guys, don't think that you cannot do stuff like this, or even the Photoshop, or because again, that was one of those things that I didn't know how to do Photoshop, and rather than, I don't know, I was just like, I'm not cool with not knowing how to do this. And so I sat down and I just played with it, and it's like I'll tell you on a lot of my videos, I'm probably not giving you the correct terms. I'm probably not telling you the way that Photoshop or Adobe would tell you. But the thing is, I'm just telling you how I learn and what makes me remember. So that's what I do. Same thing with this, you know. I am sure that I do not do this stuff the way that most people would do it, and I'm okay with that. because this is just how I do it. And that's what matters, as long as I enjoy it. I mean, it does matter to me if you guys enjoy it too. So don't get me wrong on that. I like it more when you guys enjoy it. But anyway, guys, I guess we're probably real close to our time, because you guys know I try to keep my videos about 30 minutes. Because I don't want you getting bored with me too quick. And I know this is a different type video, but there will be several of these, you know, in the future, because I do just have so much to do. And I just figured I would bring you guys along and answer some questions about me at the same time. Try and get that in. Okay, so let's see what we got done in our time here. And clean up some of this. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 pieces of ephemera made. That is wonderful. So all of this can go in my stash. So definitely needed. And again, I will decorate, excuse me, as I put it into the different journals. So there we go, guys, 11 pieces. Wonderful. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you do anything like this, let me know. Tag me in it. Post some pictures in our Facebook group. I would love to see how you get rid of some of your scraps, or how you do your mass make ephemera, if you do. But again, thanks so much, guys, for sticking along with me. I appreciate it, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye, guys.